Hello learners, welcome to this session on Introduction to Statistics. As you are aware, this is the very first lecture of course on Statistics in Psychology. Today we are going to talk about a very basic concept about statistics, when we use statistics, what statistics is all about, and especially in the research context, the role of statistics in research. So, apart from it, we will also focus upon its definition, its basic concepts, its limitations, and as well as misinterpretation of statistics. So, as you know that statistics is a very important topic in all the discipline. Across the discipline, it has their own significance. As we know that the statistics can be applied in everywhere, in every situation, every context, every discipline, every subject. But we need to know here what statistics is all about. When it comes to the things, when we say statistics, what things comes in your mind? Of course, the first things that comes in our mind is number. Sometimes the people can say it's a mathematics, there is a calculation, there is a table, there is a calculative analysis. All those things are related with the statistics. Although those who are aware about the statistics may have a better understanding about the term, but the thing is that in the very first section in this session, we will talk about what statistics is all about and what are the ingredient, or we can say what are the internal element of statistics, so that we can understand the whole concept of statistics in the very beginning part. This is the lecture, this is the session for half an hour in which we will talk about one part of Introduction to Statistics. In upcoming sessions, we will talk about more about Introduction to Statistics in the second part. So, when we say about term statistics, the term basically originated in the Italian term. This is an Italian term which actually means statista. Statista means that the person who deals with state related affairs and activities. So, this is an Italian term which actually deals with the state related affairs and activities. It was initially called state arithmetic. In a state arithmetic means in which the information about the nation, for instance tax calculation, information about war plan, about tabulation, all these things happens in a state arithmetic. So, it was initially known as a state arithmetic. Later on it has been gradually changed the terminology. Now we have the term which is called statistics. So, statistics was earlier known to be it's an application to the government related activities, like to collect the data related with the census, population, demography, and all these things happens, and especially as an application for the government related activity. Today it is increasingly used in the various fields like even economics, even psychology, education, management, and so on. So, when we say about statistics, it can be described as a branch or the subfield of mathematics that mainly deal with the organization as well as analysis and interpretation of the group of numbers. So, here you can see that statistics is dealing with the three important elements. One is to organize the data, and the second one is to analyze, and the third one is to interpret the group of number. Here the data refers to the group of numbers. So, in simple term, when we say statistics can be described as the science of classifying, organizing, and analyzing the data. As per the Millennium 2008, it is defined as the classifying, organizing, and analyzing the data. Statistics can also be explained as a science that involves use of scientific and systematic method in order to analyze numerical data related to the phenomena and then draw an inference and conclusion from the same. So, this is another kind of definitions that we can understand. In other words, we can say statistics can also be defined as a mathematical sciences pertaining to collection, analyzing, interpretation, and presentation of the data. According to the Sedgwicker and some other author, it has been explained differently in a very simple way. It can also be explained as a procedure that involves not only the description of the data but drawing an inference as well. So, in this regard, viewers, it can be mentioned that statistics can be categorized into two main branches. One is called descriptive statistics and another one may be called inferential statistics. These two terms we will discuss more in detail in upcoming discussions, but here we need to understand on the basis of their functions we divide statistics into two parts. One, as I mentioned just before, descriptive, and another one is called inferential. Beside that, statistics can also be categorized as a parametric and non-parametric statistics. Here again I am using the two new terms which is called parametric and non-parametric. You might not be familiar with this kind of terms. So we will discuss further about it in a detail in upcoming discussions. So when we talk about the basic concept of statistics, that Mohanty and Mishra in 2016 has highlighted certain points that we need to understand when we in order to understand the concept of statistics. So the statistics can be termed as a science in which the facts related to the social events are observed, recorded and computed. In organization of the data and its classification, analyze the data and process that are involved in statistics are the basic functions of statistics, as well as the various event and phenomena can be also described, explained, compared with the help of statistics. So a statistics inquiry can be systematically interpreted and predicted with the help of statistics, and in this regard statistics can also help us to making decisions. So in order to make decisions, statistics also help us a lot. And when we talk about the concept of statistics, there are certain terminology through which you should be familiar with. When we dive into the deeper concept of statistics, before that you should be familiar with the certain terms like population, like sample, like parameter, like statistics, like variables. These are the key terms that are commonly used when we deal with the statistics. So you should be familiar with these terms. Therefore, we are taking these terms at the beginning of this session at the introduction to statistics. Let's talk about the term population. As we discussed, as I told you just before, that the population is a very common term that we use in day-to-day life. But here the population means this term can be used to describe the persons, object, elements, animals, or even the reactions that display a pattern of the characteristics that is unique in nature. It can also be explained as a set of persons, object, elements, animals, reaction that the researcher wants to study. So here the set of a group of maybe people, maybe object, maybe person, maybe certain kind of behavior comes under the category of population. So the researcher wants to study a group of people, or maybe the set of people, those who have certain characteristics comes under the population. Whereas the another term that need to understand here, which is called sample. As we know that the sample is a very common word that we also use in our day-to-day life. Here the sample means, in the simple term, the sample can be defined as the group of individuals who participated in the research. In other words, we can say who can be the part of research and the researcher wants to study on that sample. As you know, entire population cannot be the part of the study of any researches. So here the researcher actually select or elect certain number of sample out of the population, so that they can be studied very precisely in the limited number of people or group or the units. A sample is a smaller group from the population that participate in the research. So in simple word we can say the sample is nothing but it's a group of people, group of event, group of situations, or maybe animals who participate in research. So it is important here that the sample is a representation of the population, because the sample is a one who is important for the researcher, and researcher make all the researches on the basis of sample characteristics. So the sample should be representative of the population. That is, it is much as possible as similar to the population and or possesses the same characteristics or element as the population has. So the population, whatever the characteristics is possessing by the population, should maintain by the sample, or not exactly, but at maximum extent it should be similar. So you might be familiar with the term in the method, research method in psychology, like related with the term like sampling. The sampling is the technique through which we select the sample, and there are various kind of sampling technique. You need to understand here very briefly about the two major division that we use to elect the sample. One is called probability sampling and another is called non-probability sampling. In the probability sampling, there is a equal chances of each unit of the population to be elected in the sample. So there is a equal chance for each unit which are present in the population can be elected in the sample, whereas there is no equal chances of the unit to be selected in the sample comes under the non-probability sampling. So sampling is all about the technique through which we select or elect the sample. Here the sample can be the probability sampling can have a different types, like simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, cluster sampling, then multi-stage random sampling. Non-probability sampling, we have a different types like convenient sampling, voluntary sampling, judgmental sampling, quota sampling, snowball sampling. All these are the common sampling technique that we use in the study to select the sample from the population. Another term that you need to know here, which is called parameter. In order to understand the statistics or basics of statistics, another term that you need to know here is called parameter. What parameter is all about? And another term which is also very common in the statistics, which is called statistics itself. So there are two another term that you should be familiar with. One is parameter and another is called statistics. Parameter is nothing but it can be termed as the value that provide information about the population that is investigated in the research. It can be described as a measure of the population and refers to the indices of the central value of dispersion, correlation and so on, and all the individual of the population. So in other words, in the simple word, we can say parameter is nothing but it's the characteristics of the population, whereas the statistics is the characteristics of sample. So it's another aspect of the population that measures that aspect of population are measured in other aspects. When we measure the sample is called a statistics. So characteristics of population is called parameter and characteristics of sample is called a statistics. Here I would like to draw your attention in this slide, and this slide talks about different symbols that we use in order to indicate the parameters and the statistics. So there are certain measures that has been indicated in the very left column and the very first column, and you can see here there are measures like mean, standard deviation and variance are there. Although you are not that much aware about, we have not introduced yet about mean, standard deviation and variance. For instance, just think these are the technique, these are the calculations. How do we indicate in these two parameters like parameter and statistics? So for parameter we have different symbols that we use. Mu is the parametric mean indications, whereas the x bar for the statistics means when we calculate mean for sample we use x bar. In the similar way, when we calculate the standard deviation for the population, or that is called parameter, we indicate sigma, whereas for the calculation of standard deviation for a statistics is called indicated by a small s. And similar for variance we use sigma square for the parameter, and for a statistics we use s square. So till now we have discussed 2 or 4 important things. One is called parameter, another is called statistics. Then let me talk about something which is called variable. So as I told you that there are 4 things we discussed. One is called population, then sample, then the characteristics of population is called parameter, then characteristics of sample is called statistics. Now we are going to talk about another term which is called variable. So what variables is all about? Variable means simply that it's something that varies. So whatever the things that varies, that comes under the variable. It can also be explained as the quantity or a number that will vary or will have a different value at the different context. Study, for example, if you have to understand about the term variable, let me give you one example through which you can understand the variable clearly. For example, a researcher wants to study on emotional intelligence and self-esteem of adolescents in India. So here you can see there are three variables that are the part of the study. One is called emotional intelligence. It varies person to person. Similarly, self-esteem can also vary person to person, and adolescent is also one of the variable. The researcher might take some other group of people, maybe elderly, maybe children. So here he or she has taken adolescent. So it is also one of the variables. So in this research title, you can see there are three variables. One is called emotional intelligence, the second one is called self-esteem, and third one is adolescent itself. There are different types of variables that you need to understand here very briefly, because these are the things that we discuss in the research method section. Although you are dealing with the statistics in psychology, so these things you should know at one go, so that you can be easily understand when these terms comes in your further discussion. So there are different types of variables. One is called independent variable. So the variable that can be manipulated by the researcher during the research, it comes under the independent variable. Whereas the dependent variable is the variable that the researcher measures in respect to the manipulation that they do with the IB, and whatever the effect of that manipulation happens on those things that we measure is called dependent variable. Similarly, the extraneous variables we have. The extraneous variable is the variable that actually interfere the relationship between the independent and dependent variable. Then we have a quantitative variable which is quantifying in nature, number in nature. Then we have a qualitative variable which comes under the characteristics of the certain things or certain object, persons. Then we have another variable which can be understand like the things that we discuss in the different contexts, like continuous variable. Then we have discrete variables. So continuous variable can be our weight, our age. It's a continuous in nature. There is no gap in between. There is a continuous in nature. Whereas the discrete variables can be the number of persons in a room, number of children, number of books that you have, number of and various things like how many cars do you have. So if you say 2 cars, this is a discrete series. There is no continuity in these segments. So we have discussed so far the population, sample, parameter, statistics. Then we discuss about the variable and its different types. The statistics is the subject. Here we need to know that where is the application of a statistics, means where do we apply a statistics, its application. So as I told you in the very beginning part, the statistics has a different application in different setups, but scope and application of a statistics can be understood in the different contexts. Like it has the application in policy planning, then management, education, marketing, agriculture, medicine, and so on. In all the fields that this is a major application that we can see. The statistics has been used in a different context. Although one of its major application we find in research. As we are discussing about it in the context of research, then we will discuss the statistics or its application in the research that we use in the behavioral sciences. So our main focus would be on the application of statistics in behavioral research. So thus the discussion in this regard will mainly focus upon the psychological researches, but before going into psychological researches, role of statistics in psychological researches, we will try to understand the concept what researches is all about. So when we talk about researches, there are numerous of ideas comes in our mind. Research is a very big things, very big things that usually carried out by the scientist. But here we need to understand the things that the research is a very common practice in all the discipline. For the advancement of any discipline, the research should be carried out, because without having research, no development can take place. So here we need to understand the term research, because the statistics and its application basically we see in, especially in the behavioral research context. So what research is all about? According to the Kerlinger 1995, he defines that the scientific research is a systematic, controlled, empirical, critical investigation of a natural phenomena guided by maybe theory or hypothesis about presumed relation among the such phenomena. Some of the main concept of research indicates that the statement of the problem, then we have hypothesis, then we have sample, research design, data collection, data analysis. All these are the component of the research. So role of statistics in research can be seen in all the steps that we do in the researches. Like when we drawing a sample, there is a statistical method through which we draw the sample. Then we apply, when we go for the determining the number of sample, how many samples size should be there in our research. There is a different formula that we apply. Again, we have a use of statistics to develop a test that to measure attitude, to measure certain variables, psychological variables like emotional intelligence, maybe job satisfactions, maybe life satisfaction. Everywhere we need to understand the things that how do we develop a test. So when we go for the test development, again the statistics has a great implications, like to calculate reliability, the validity of the test. Then we also use factor analysis to reduce the dimensions, as well as to see whether the sample is normally distributed or not, or the norms. And in order to develop a norms about the sample, norms about the any test that we are going to develop, we also use statistics. So statistics has their implication in all the steps that we do in researches till beginning to end, means to draw the sample, at the analysis and interpretation of the result, we use statistics everywhere. So statistics can be easily understand, as I mentioned at the beginning. It can be further divided into two parts. One is called descriptive and another one is called inferential statistics. So descriptive, with regard to descriptive statistics, it's a raw data, can be classified, tabulated, and then measured in terms of central tendency, measure of variability, and it can be used in the different objective of researches. We will discuss more about descriptive and inferential statistics in upcoming sections. Then statistics can also be categorized in two terms. One is called parametric and non-parametric. So what actually parametric and non-parametric is all about, we will discuss more about it in upcoming sessions. Also statistics can be univariate, bivariate, multivariate. So here you can understand the statistics has a major and significant role in researches. So the thing is that when we talk about the limitations, the limitation of statistics, or we can say misinterpretation of statistics, here we need to understand where we misinterpreted the statistics and what are the limitations of statistics. The first, the statistics cannot be used with single observation. To compute a statistics, we need a group of data or observation. So we can't go for a statistical analysis with the help of only single observation. So this is one of the limitations. Apart from it, event or phenomena that are qualitative in nature cannot be subjected to statistics. So if we have to go for the qualitative studies, we need to first convert into quantitative or allocate certain number to them, and then we further use statistics. So in order to make inference about based on the statistics cannot be exact as an inference that we draw on the based on mathematical laws. So statistical laws are based on the majority of observation and may not be applicable to each and every individual. So a statistical law is different from mathematical law. So whatever the inference we draw from mathematical law cannot be similar in the statistical law, because the statistical law are based upon the majority of observation and may not be applicable to each and every individual. So this is one of the major limitation of a statistics. So statistics may not provide a complete picture about the certain phenomena or event. It can be there, then there are a number of factors that can have an impact on the certain phenomena, but a statistics will be able to measure only those factors that are quantitatively expressed. The results obtained are also prone to be misinterpreted sometimes, especially by the untrained person who don't have a proper understanding about the statistics can also misinterpret the statistical outcomes, who lack with the knowledge about the statistical technique, their computation and their interpretation. They might be misinterpret the result, the outcome that we come across when we go for the analysis by using a statistical technique. So a statistics has also one of the limitations. So the trained person can only use the statistics and can interpret the result very effectively. So at the end, I would like to summarize what we have discussed so far. So in this session, we talked about mainly focus upon the term statistics. We define the term statistics. Then we describe its branches, its field, where it can be applied, where is the application of this statistics. We also define the term statistics that has origin in Italian term, which is called statista, and that is the person who deals with the state related affairs and activity. Further, we also discuss about the key concept of statistics in terms of population, sample, parameter, statistics, variable, and we also discussed the things like role of statistics in the research and its application and how we statistics use in the selection of the data, analysis of the data, and at the end we also discussed about the limitation and misinterpretation of statistics.